All right, hi, I'm Lindell Ormsbee, and I'm representing the EWR Water Distribution Systems Analysis History Project. And the purpose of our project has been to document the evolution and history of water distribution modeling. And as part of that project, we've been going through and conducting interviews with some of the pioneers in the industry and getting their insights into how the industry kind of got started, or how the field got started, and kind of where they see things going into the future. And today we're very pleased to be able to interview Dr. Paul Boulos. Paul is currently the CEO of Digital Waterworks, which is a new company that he's put together recently. And Paul has been at the forefront over the last several decades of water distribution modeling, both as an academician, as a consultant, and also most people know him relative to software development for a couple companies that he helped put together and market software through MWH Soft and also Innovize. And so Paul, we're real great to be with you today, and been looking forward to having this interview and getting your insights. I know you've got a lot of interesting stories and historical anecdotes, and really wanted to see what you had to say. So first, I guess I might begin with asking, how did you kind of get started in water distribution modeling, and a little bit of the history, and we can kind of go from there.
Well, thank you, Linda, for this very kind introduction. I'm just the humble servant of our noble industry. I started as a graduate student. Actually, I was doing my final year at University of Kentucky, and I was very lucky at that time to meet with Don Wood.
Right.
And he asked me to, for the summer, if I have nothing to do for the summer. I said, I'm doing some work on resin column analysis in geotechnical engineering, but that should be pretty fast. And he said, well, if you're done very fast, come and see me. So I was very lucky to finish it in like a month. And I went to see Don Wood, and he said, hey, I have these three programs, KY pipe, and KY gas, and steam nets. And so you can look at them and see if we can, make them faster, increase their capability, because at that time there were only about 300 pipe. And so I did that, and it was really fantastic. I believe, we changed up to 2,000 pipe, had a lot of capabilities, and finished my report, and and I was getting paid, which was really fantastic for the summer as a starving student. That was really fantastic. And then we were very lucky at that time that to apply for an NSF project, which we ended up getting it funded. And I was also blessed and lucky, actually. One of the professors at that time was leaving to University of California, Davis, Cavas, in hydrology. And he took a student with him, which is Rao, and now, as you know, he's chairman of Purdue University Civil Engineering Department. And he had a presidential scholarship, and so they gave me his presidential fellowship. Plus, I got a research assistant fellowship, which, for Kentucky, that's a lot of money. I mean, it was really incredible, but it wasn't really the money. So I was able to do my master, in PG, and by doing that, I ended up working with the Civil Engineering Software Center. We ended up doing training, helping the water utilities, at that time, and the consulting, engineers who come in. I think we used to do about 4 courses a year, training courses, and it got me really very passionate and excited about that, that industry. But that's really what got me excited, at that time in the water distribution.
So what did you enjoy most about your graduate student years? The coding that you got to do, or interfacing with consultants or practitioners, or the training?
I think what I really enjoyed the most at that time was really incredible, was being able to see that the work I'm doing is actually being applied, and people are actually using it. It was really incredible. And the feedback you get from the practicing engineers, whether it's water utilities or consulting firms, saying, well, we don't like this, we like this, why don't we add this feature, in practical application, we do something different. If you remember, when you were teaching also the course, PRV, we had to do a parallel pipe, and we had to close that pipe to get the PRV to work. So I was able to do it, from a medical point, you don't need to do that, right? So we
Right.
can be able to model all this kind of thing. So it's really advancing the state of the art and actually getting the feedback from the utilities, like from the users, and it's the amount of learning you get from them is priceless.
Good. That's good. So what did you do after you left UK? So you were at UK for all three of your degrees, I believe.
Correct. I got my bachelor, master, and PhD, and I spent 2 years at a time as a professor, assistant professor. Actually, I worked with you on a couple of papers, and I was very lucky to work with also other people like Don Wood and Tom Altman at that time over there. And then I decided to learn the practicing engineer. I want to design. I want to design treatment plant and pump station, and
Sure.
it's nice to use them at a fixed grade reservoir for the treatment plant, but how that works, in
Right.
reality. And so I joined a consulting company at that time, very well known in water, called James and Montgomery. Later on became Montgomery Watson, later on became Montgomery Watson Harza, which is MWH. And in 2016, it was acquired by Stantec.
Right.
And so I ended up joining this company, ended up, working on almost everything that exists in design. I loved it. And then I started realizing that, a lot of things can be done more efficient. And we as engineers are very conservative. We use the same thing again and again and again and again for decades, actually. And I found out that actually we can do it a little more efficient. So it got me very excited, and I really wanted to serve that industry so much. And it got me to talk on a daily basis and listen on a daily basis and observe on a daily basis how the actual water utility are using technology and are using for their daily work. And
Right.
I really wanted to get me excited and really passionate about how can I make their work life easier and more efficient and more fun, so they can spend more time with their family. So and it got me to do a lot of great things at that time to serve them.
So how did you transition from consulting then into the software business?
Well, actually, I was both. I stayed all my life as a consultant when I was
Right.
Montgomery Watson, and I was called MWH because it became MWH. But at the
Sure.
same time, I decided to enter the software business at that time because, there was great software on the market. University of Kentucky has amazing, really wonderful software. You had also software vendors like Haystack Metals is amazing software. You had also very sophisticated software at the time for large utilities like Stoner. Really amazing software. The problem is technology was changing so fast.
Right.
And everything was still DOS based, where Windows was already out 3.1 and nobody was moving to that direction. Finally EPA came up with EPNet, which was the first Windows based at that time. But nobody was. But you had a computer, the CMMS, which is a computerized maintenance management system. You had the GIS, was also the Oracle database was starting to boom. So all this, and nobody was really integrating them in a way that's going to be useful for the utilities. And so I decided to. I tried. I'm honest with you. I tried to talk to several vendors to see if they can do that, and I'm sure they do. They can. It's just it was not priority for them. So I decided at that time to develop my own program, which I did, and it's called H2Net. And when we start using it on project, the client came back and said, "Whoa, this vendor, we want it." Well, how can we give it to you? We're not there to support it or maintain it and all this. So I went to see the chief operating officer of the company at that time. I said, "Look, we got to create a software company, and so I want to do it." He said, "Great." We went to the president and the CEO. They like it. Went to the board. We took it. We like it, and so we launched a software company. And we call it MW Sub because the company was Montgomery Watson MW. So that's how we started. It was the first water distribution, if you want, modeling software that was AutoCAD. If you want, centric, window-based,
Right.
and database-driven modeling software. So that was the only one that combined, the whole thing in a way that can be more user-friendly,
Right.
and convenient to the utilities and the consulting
So
firm.
how many people did you start working with in your
I was only
team?
one.
Just-
It
was
was
it just
only
you,
one. It was only one, and then I hired I was in the first department before that. I met a wonderful human being called Roger, and brought him there. He was an amazing programmer, and he did a magnificent interface. And then a year later, I hired another gentleman called Chun Ho, who was from the UK.
Right.
He was coming in. I think he was a professor at the University of the Montfort. And so it took us about till 1999. That was 1996, May 1996, when I opened the company. In 1999, we started probably having 4 people.
Okay.
And then we start, from there, growing, hiring more people, going more product, and so it was really incredible. But for a long time, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to do everything. So
Yeah.
I was doing the training, the support, the user guide, the algorithm development, the programming. I mean, you name it, I've done it. The shipping, going to the bank, make the deposit, the secretary, the phone answering. It was an amazing learning experience. It was really incredible. And I give you credit on that, because one of the things I learned working with you on papers is, I remember the first paper we wrote was on analytical calibration, right?
Right.
Analytical operation at that time on water vision system. And what you told me, so I could develop the algorithm, and I'll show you, and I write the paper, and then we can just look at it. And so I remember that Saturday I finished the algorithm. On Sunday I had the paper written, and we sent for publication. So the speed was incredible. We did the same thing with the analytical calibration using multiple loading condition. So I learned how to write very fast, which I did at that time. I didn't know how to write English very well, so I ended up writing very fast. So all this was done extremely fast. So I was writing the user guide at night. Probably spent a couple of days on it. The online help was written probably on a weekend, and so it was really doing everything together. And I think when you had Roger and then Chun Ho, so they can focus really on the programming aspect. They're very good with the Chun Ho was very good with the object-oriented technology, and Roger was very good with the AutoCAD. He's a mechanical engineer, wonderful human being, really a pleasure to work with. And so we're able to develop software very fast and very efficient, and it was really a labor of love.
So you started out with H2ONet and H2 Map, right?
Yeah, no, we
Map?
started with H2ONet, which was the AutoCAD based, and about 2 years later what happened was, actually when we started with H2ONet, it was the first AutoCAD Windows was version 12. So the programming language was Autolips. Within a year, 9 months, they went to AutoCAD 13.
Right.
And we have to rewrite the whole programming language because I was using ADS. And then a year later, AutoCAD 13 was really not successful. And so they released AutoCAD 14, which was object-oriented using Object ARX. So we had to rewrite the program 3 times in 3 years. But by that time, the utility were moving now to start looking at GIS.
Right.
GIS. And this is when RView 3.0 came out. And, so we decided that, okay, so we still have a lot of utility using the AutoCAD, which is really was a standard over there, and some were using, are moving to the GIS. So we said, let's do one. At that time, as we develop a programming language called map objects, so you don't have to have, the ArcView right there, but you can import and export, and so that's what we did. So we did a standalone, if you want. And we called it H2O map. But that was 3 years later, and we did one for water, and then I decided to go into sewer, so I have a sewer program. We call it H2O map sewer at that time. And, and so we started invent. Then about, 3 years later, almost all the utility became on ASRI product, which are really amazing product, great product. And they moved directly from version 3 to version 8. Which was object-oriented. So there was no 4, 5, and 6, and 7, directly to 8. So we had to rewrite the whole thing that's become ArcGIS-centric. So we released InfoWater, which was an InfoSewer at that time, which was actually run inside ArcGIS. So we had 3 platforms, the AutoCAD platform, the standalone GIS, so GIS-based, and the GIS-centric integrated. So that's how we moved very fast. And then, of course, after that, we continued spending. So we went to asset management, operation analytics, and all these kind of things. Right.
So what do you do? What are some of the things you would attribute the success of those endeavors to?
Oh, the people. Oh my God. We had wonderful people. I was blessed with amazing people, teamwork. And then everybody, I never hired people for their skills. I hired people for their character and their passion for our industry. And I was blessed to have amazing people who really care about the industry, who had a great character. You know, they want to serve that industry. They are there to really want the customer to succeed. So that their focus on is customer success.
Right.
It's not the customer satisfaction. They wanted really the customer succeed. So we were going out of our way to make sure our customer become very successful in what they do. So I think, 99.999% of all the credit, go to the people. At the same time, also I would include in the people our customers,
Right.
because the industry, everything they wanted. You say, we go, what guys, anything you don't like about our software, or you want a new feature, new capabilities, tell us. So they give us a tremendous feedback.
Right.
So we actually co-created our product with them. So it's really the combination of the utility industry, the consulting industry, and our wonderful staff, colleague. We were able to create something that was very useful, and very convenient, to them.
Sure.
So we never make the decision. It's not like build it, they will come. No, we're going to build it for exactly what they need, and not what they want. And this, I think, was really the success, where most of the established companies at that time, they've done a magnificent job. But for them to recreate, because they were very big, and for them to recreate everything from scratch, it became very difficult, very
Sure.
costly. So they were mainly putting band-aids. So they were trying to give vitamins. And water utility and consult doesn't need vitamin, they need painkiller.
Yeah.
We need to solve that problem. So we're providing them with a painkiller, because we co-created, all our product with them. So it was really incredible. It was a great community base. But every vendors I think we had was amazing, wonderful human being, and wonderful company. So I'm glad to see there was so many companies in that area, software
Sure.
companies. So it was really incredible.
What was one of the more interesting utilities that you worked with relative to your?
Oh, they're all fantastic. I think Las Vegas Valley Water District was probably my first challenge. They were looking at our software, and they like certain things, which was user interface, was very user friendly. They like that, especially with Windows, right? You cut and paste and all this. So the 20 EPS, you get the graph 24 hours. You take that, copy it, put it into Excel, or put it in your report. So they love all this kind of thing. But we had a lot of capability we did not have. They wanted energy management, they wanted file flow, they wanted contours, they gave me about, I think, 4 pages, and each page was like bullet items. And they said they're looking at other software vendors at that time. They said, I want all these features. So I said, well, can you give me some time? I said, no, we'll give you no more than 3 months. So okay. So actually, we were able to develop it within about a month and a half, all of these features. And we went and presented to them, and they loved us. And they said, wow, okay, we got the job. And that was my biggest sale at that time, by far the largest sale. And from them we became that time a tremendous success story, because of them they recommend us to everybody else, and we end up working with very large utilities and very small utilities. I work for a very medium-sized utility, for example, in Washington. The gentleman was called J.D. Renton. What a wonderful human being. He gave me tons of ideas to add, and we end up adding all these kind of things. Memphis, which is a very big city, Memphis Light, Water and Gas. They wanted hundreds of features. Los Angeles Power and Power, 100 of features. East Bay Mud, 100 of features. So everybody wanted all these features and capabilities. And the first question I asked them, is that something that you want or you really need? There's a big difference. Everybody wants everything, right? But what you really need was what's important, right? And the way I define need, it's one that you are willing and able to pay for. In other words, if we do it. And they all needed it, which was really incredible. So we focused on their needs, and we were very, very fast. I mean, in adding all these features. So the customer support, which we call customer success, focusing on making them successful, was incredible. So that was one. The other thing we had in our company, which is different probably, but I had a philosophy that nobody should work more than 40 hours a week. Nobody. Except me, because I had to write papers and books. The only time to do it is during the weekend and at night. But So by doing that, everybody was able to spend time with their family, with their communities, you know, and they come home, they come back to work very happy. And if they're happy, guess what happened? The customer is happy. You know, they treat their customer extremely well. And when the customer is happy, fantastic. You know, in a business term, you know, a customer that is happy will pay, he or she will pay their bill on time. They will recommend you to everybody else, right? Which is very, you know, very important. They will stay forever. There is no reason for the, you know, for them to leave, and they keep on buying. So what they call in business term, that mean that you increase the share of the wallet. You get a raving fan, which is your best ambassador free of charge. They are the ones selling, or you have a sales force free of charge, which is really incredible. And more important, they keep on giving all these ideas for new product, and because that's their product. You know, so we get tremendous idea, and you know, when they pay their bill on time, you know, you have cash flow. You don't have cash flow problems. So it's very important from a business point of view.
Sure.
But that's not why we did it. We did it really because we wanted to serve the industry.
So Paul, what about some of the relationships you had with, I guess, in England and France and so on, some of the different parties that you interface with?
Yeah, it was initially when I joined Jameson Montgomery, which became MWH later on. They have great relationship with Lyonnaise des Eaux, which is now Suez.
Right.
And at that time, they had a company that they purchased called Safage, and they had a program called Piccolo.
Right, I remember that.
And so it was a great program, wonderful. It has a very powerful water quality modeling algorithm at that time, technology similar to Stoner, which I think there's the only two at that time who had it. We're talking 1991.
Right.
So there was the only two who had that. Very, very good technology. So I ended up working quite a lot with them. You know, with the French. Stoner was, they have a great product, and the user interface was amazing, really incredible. But I think they were more like consultant. So that was kind of a, you know, problem, because they will compete against the consultant on project. But you know, really great people, great company. But at the same time, I was very excited doing something new, and the water quality was booming at that time. So, you know, and as a consultant, you have to go, you know, write proposals. So we didn't have time to write proposals. So I started writing on my own time, developing algorithm on water quality. I started with steady state and, you know, to improve whatever was available at that time, and published quite a lot of papers. And I started on dynamic water quality modeling. I think Walter Grayman at that time, I read his first paper, something, I think he called it DWQM, Dynamic Water Quality Model. And I said, you know, so I took that and, you know, integrated with KY Pipe at that time to get everything, you know, as one, as easy to use. So you don't have to exit, import and import and export and all this. And then I got to start getting, then I got a call from Bob Clark, because he was doing that. He was the head of drinking water division in US EPA in Cincinnati, and he said, hey, let's work together. So went after a NEOWAR project together. So I was working with Bob Clark and Walter Grayman. He was on my team, and as Pratim Biswa from University of Cincinnati on the team, and Lou Rossman then joined at that time. I think he was in the wastewater of EPA, then he joined the drinking water. So we ended up working on that project. We learned a lot on how to model chlorine you know, decay, and you know, as you know, when you do research, the more you know, you more find out there is more to know, to learn.
And you did some field work on that project.
I did the field work on that project. You know, we did quite a lot of things. It was, I used to be, you know, I want to do everything, you know, and so we end up learning a lot from them, and you know, and you know, and then of course after that I continue working with, because the project finished, and we published, you know, very good paper, quality paper, and we end up taking that technology, and I changed the algorithm at that time to something more like event-driven on this, which has a lot of advantage. And then I work with Lou Rossman quite a lot, and Lou is a great, amazingly human being. He has a heart of gold. Love to do great things, and so we end up doing a lot of things together, and I think this enhanced EPNet quite a lot. And I love the fact that it was public domain. Everybody could use it. Everybody can take it and write their own interface and add whatever they want to integrate it with. With the French, we end up not doing very much with them after that.
But what about the English? Because
The English, so yeah, we acquired the company. So in 2009, we became the dominant player in the water industry, and our software was the sewer software was pretty good. We used actually InfoSwim at that time. We took the Swim 5 developed by EPA and put our own GIS interface, and we had some capabilities that was very important for utilities, especially in the like in California, where you have hydrogen sulfide issues, right. And in Alaska, when we want to model the temperature, we had a lot of these things that EPA did not have, but our customer was asking for. And so what happened at that time is, they were very good. Wallingford was very good in the, outside the United States in wastewater. They actually were the dominant player, them and DHI. So we wanted to expand globally, and they have relationship, and so we felt, well, we're very strong in the in North America in water. Mm-hmm. They're very and wastewater, but they're very strong in the wastewater outside. So it's a great management software heaven, mm-hmm. Where you take two great companies and put them together, and so you have the best water, the best wastewater, product. There's more like integrated catchment. Well, that time they don't have, and so we decided to develop the integrated catchment modeling, management, and so this is when we purchased them in 2009. And by 2011, we became quite big as a company, so we changed the name completely, and we separated from MWH. So we couldn't call ourselves MWH Soft anymore. Right. So we changed the name to Innovize, and
that name was kind of picked by the group, I guess.
No, we hired this a very famous guy who wrote several books. One called Brandy's Equity, okay. And he came up with several different names, and
right. So
and
you
had
came up with some possible.
It was great. It was a list of names, and you have to make sure that can be trademarked, and you can also that you can get the website, because most of the names are taken. Almost right. Every name in the dictionary is taken. Actually, all of the names in the dictionary is taken. So it was very interesting on the name. So he came up, with a list of names, and my board at that time never liked any name he presented. So that cost a lot of money. So finally I said, look, just give me 10 new names, and it's only to me. And so I went to the chair at that time, to the board, and said, look, enough is enough. So you just right now, I'm not leaving this room until you pick one of the names. So he said, okay, let's go with Innovize. I said, done. That's it. We're done. So that took only 3 minutes, So we started spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a name. And I asked our people, I said, what do you guys like? Because I loved it. I said, great. I didn't like it very much, but hey, you get used to it, It's it's a teamwork at the end of the day. Sure. So, and that's how we became Innovize. And then when we sold MWH, I was president of MWH at the same time. And I was also running the Middle East operation, and it was very hard in 2009 because the economic collapse and Dubai collapse, and so most of the company were doing work don't exist anymore. They're bankrupt, so you can never get your money. Uh-huh. So we haven't get paid, so I had to go over there, and but it was really probably a great learning experience. We ended up getting paid, and we ended up actually a great success story. We grew. I entered into Qatar. We didn't have an office over there. That was really booming over there, and I closed several offices. Like Yemen, I closed Yemen. I sold our office in Jordan. They were not making any money. Right. They were actually losing money. So, and we focused on one can make money, and we took this company to a huge level of success. And again, it's the people. I think the strategy is good. The strategy, we're lucky to have the right strategy, but it's the people who execute the strategy. Right. They've done a fantastic job. And then in 2016, we sold MWH to Stantec, and a year later we sold Innovize to private equity. Mm-hmm.
Well, Paul, you've written extensively on this field. You've published several books. You've written, probably hundreds of articles. What do you see as some of your, most significant technical contributions?
To be honest, I think what I really loved about, what I did probably is different than other people is, there's an African proverb that said, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I was very lucky to, to actually want to work with people. Uh-huh. I don't think I published probably only like 4% of all the paper, I think about 300 now, but only 4% were alone. And everything else was different people. So, because every paper ended up learning so much from other people. So I was very, very lucky into that. And I think, my first paper with Don Wood was a great, was something I really believe was amazing. It was the first one that we actually developed the theory on how to make sure that it's, it works. Necessary and sufficient condition to make it to work. So it was an algorithm, and then of course the work I've done was initially with Lou Rossman, and then without Lou Rossman, I did it with Tom Altman a lot on the event-driven. So I took to the next level. Work on surge was incredible. Working with Don Wood on the surge, I think the wave characteristic method was a huge success story because now you can model 100,000 pipe. In very, very speed, and very, very fast, where you can never do it with any other method. And the results are, to be honest with you, very close, so plus you don't know anyway. Both of them have so much errors anyway,
Sure.
So but it was really incredible thing. So I think my biggest contribution has been on the water quality side, is using existing algorithm that was developed probably 40 years earlier, but in computer science and completely different, and I just took that technology and I've used it to apply. So I didn't develop anything new, but in the field was innovative.
Gotcha.
But the algorithm was developed a long time ago, mainly in computer science.
So what do you see as some of the most significant developments in the field since you've been at it?
I think probably the most exciting thing I've done was be able to interface, if you want, integrate, the whole holistic approach of the modeling. If you look at the, the wastewater, everybody has a wastewater model. But if you really want to really be able to determine what's really going to be able to really model the holistic approach, you have to include the treatment plants, right? And you also have to include the groundwater, because of INI, infiltration inflows, so that you have to have a groundwater model and also the rivers, right? Because when you have especially for combined sewer overflows or things, you're going to have the two-dimensional flooding. You're going to be able to determine, then you go back into the sewer. So you have to be able to have this whole holistic approach. So that was the first, I think, contribution that I've done on the wastewater side, to be able to put this integration, integrated catchment modeling. On the water side, I think the biggest contribution I've done at that time was to be able to, integrate, operational analytics, which is really the SCADA and the sensor and all this, with, engineering, with information technology, which is mainly at that time the billing system, and the GIS, with the engineering technology, which is the modeling. So it was what I call pervasive modeling, and I think now it's term being used. I think I use it. I believe in 2001 for the first time. Now I think everybody uses the word pervasive modeling. Kind of very interesting. And recently, about 2 years ago, I started the concept of digital twin infrastructure. And in the last 2 months, everybody is using it. So I think it's great,
So here we are at the 2019 EWR Water Congress, and there's various topics being looked at and issues discussed. What do you think some of the issues we'll be looking at, say, in 10 years? Where do you see the field kind of going, and what do you think the topics that we'll be talking about in 10 years?
I think what you will see is the modeling now going to change completely. It's going to be completely, it's about really creating a digital twin. And there is different concept of digital twin, some people, different definitions, I don't know if I have the right definition, but I think the real definition is, the way I look at it, is really integrating, information technology. That's like the GIS, the BIM, for example, the billing system. All this together with operation analytics, so you can do not just SCADA and the sensor, but also you'll be able, to integrate, this is where artificial intelligence, comes in, and with the engineering technology. So you'll be able to have a 24/7, 360-degree view of the health and the performance of your operating asset. So you're actually accurately mirroring the health and performance of these assets. So, for example, if a pump is vibrating too fast, immediately this is immediate purchase work order is immediately sent. This is something never done, and until now is not being done. I think actually I'm the first one our company is the first one of providing this kind of capabilities. So everything become automated in a way that make the life of the utility, the different department, they don't have to work in silos anymore. They all share the same data, and then they can take, everybody will have a cell phone, which everybody now have, and they'll be able to have everything from a cell phone. And I tell you, this is on the modeling side. Everything we done on a cell phone. And you'll be able to see exactly the health, the performance, everything of what's happening on the cell phone. And actually, I think that the engineering going to be like this. I think you want to design a tank, you'll be able to do everything on cell phone. Say, this is a tank, wants to be 30 million gallons, going to be, cylindrical, for example, and I want this height, it's going to be in this, you put the topo, and then immediately the program will develop the whole thing. It just print you all the sheets. Everything is so, we're very conservative. The water industry is very, very conservative. Everything we've been doing the same way. The same way it's done pump station 50 years ago, you're still doing it. The same doing the hardy cross, to solve, you're just using a modification of hardy cross. Everything is still the same way, and I think this is the next level.
Do you see a role for artificial intelligence in this?
Oh, absolutely. I see a great role for artificial, intelligence. And I think it's going to continue to improve. The first time I used artificial intelligence was in 1991. Didn't work very well, but it wasn't for water network. It was, well, actually, if it was at the treatment plant where, we're deciding, have all this data coming in and said, well, how much chlorine then we want to inject, right? And we find out that there was too many multivariable dynamic things that happen in the system that it doesn't work very well because you only had 3 years of data, and and suddenly you have a situation that was not programmed. The same thing in distribution system, for operation. May have suddenly a fire that was not programmed, right? So everybody is moving there. Or if you're in Alaska, you may have a volcano that happened in 1991. Again, you will not be able to. But there's a lot of things for calibration, for example, etc., where it's still going to require a lot of judgment, from the individual. But I think a lot of the trivial things, calculation or action, will be done by by artificial. Because here's the way I look at it. In the past, we were doing modeling into what I called, if you want, reactive. So you start with descriptive. What is happening right now in the system? Then you move to diagnostic, and you say, okay, why is it happening, right? Why is it happening? But then now you're moving to a reactive approach, which you start with predictive. What will happen? Right? So what different scenarios? And then you're going to prescriptive with how to make it happen. What action should I do to make it happen? And if you be able to get this loop all the time, this virtual cycle, if you want, of descriptive to prescriptive, so you'll be able to take actions all the time. And that's what I think where artificial intelligence will play a very, very big role on this. And that is the future. I don't think we're there yet. I think we will be there, and I think you're going to have all these university professors and consulting firms and research organization really putting a lot of effort into that. That is the future, because the best way to create the future, to predict the future, is to create it, and that's how utility will be doing. So they want to they want to predict the future, let them create it. So they want to create exactly how the operation want to be, let them create it, and that's what artificial intelligence will do.
Well, that leads into, I guess, one of my final questions. One of the things I think we try to ask a lot of our folks that we've interviewed is, what advice might you give to new researchers that are just entering the field? Any advice for them based on your experience that might be related to future areas you think that might be important to look at? We've already mentioned artificial intelligence, or just some general advice you might give to a new researcher that's like you were several years ago, working on your master's and your doctorate, and trying to decide what you're going to do with your career.
I think I think this is such a noble profession. I mean, it's an amazing, I think teachers, nurses, and engineers are such a noble profession. I mean, we are what I call the unsung public heroes. We really we're really building, everything we do impact, the quality of life. So everything we try to do is build infrastructure for tomorrow, right? It's all about be able to create a wonderful place for all of us to live, build a better world for the greater good. And to be able to do that, I really would, my advice to every professor, every researcher, every engineer, work with others. Don't try to just work by yourself, and it's not about you, it's about the people surrounding you. You can learn so much from other people. If you have an ego, check it out, before you get in the room with your colleagues. Together you'll be able to do tremendous work. Like I said, I was blessed. I was working with, even when Kentucky, I was working with you and Don Wood and everybody, right? I was working with, when I worked with, Montgomery Watson, I was working with 100 PhDs. It's amazing, and one was in astronomy and one is, it's amazing, actually I learned more from the guy from astronomy than from anybody else. It was really incredible. And so, if you really be able to get into the next generation, developing the next generation of tools for these utility, we're now into what I call the water 4.0. I think we're going to be water 5.0 very soon. And to be able to do that, you're going to have diversity. And it's not gender diversity, but also diversity of education and expertise and skills. I mean, look what happened right now. On the Boeing 737 issues. It's a software issue. That actually so now you have the software, but everything is interrelated, and this is what's going to happen. Everything has to be interrelated, and I think if they focus on that, the idea is how to create the water utility of the future, and the water utility of the future. There are going to be a lot of operational analytics involved. There are going to be a lot of information technology involved. That is moving very, very fast. And a lot of modeling also involved. And no person can do everything alone. And I think we all saw that in every company or every person who became who done a lot of work. He succeeded very fast, but the downfall was even faster. So you have to work with other people. I really advise every engineer who graduates. It's an amazing field. It's your satisfaction. And also, you can never be happier and get better satisfaction than when seeing other people succeeding with you. My God, you can never be happy to make someone else happy. So together you can create, really the best technology, I think. And I think the utility of future is time to create it. It's still 1.0. We need to. Today is supposed to be in water is 4.0, but we're still not there.
Right.
We're still not in the IoT and all this, and we're going to go to 5.0. You guys can make that happen, and I look forward to working with all of you and make it happen for our industry.
Okay. Great.
And for our profession.
Thanks, Paul. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
You. My pleasure. My honor.
It's been great talking with Dr. Paul Boulos. This interview was conducted on May 22nd, 2019 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.